Well, happy Thursday afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Before the Four. I am digital host A.J. Wuest, and of course, I want to welcome you all who are watching right now back to the Before the Four, where I talk about WAFF 48's top stories before our 4 p.m. newscast. And of course, if you are new to Before the Four, I want to welcome you. Thank you for spending a little bit of your Thursday afternoon with me. This is a live stream where I talk about our top stories. We'll do it on Facebook Live, we stream on YouTube Live, and of course the 48 live stream page. And I don't know about you all today, but it rained here at the station, which is a rare occurrence, especially if you've been in North Alabama for the past month. We do not see, we haven't been seeing a whole lot of rain, so that was a real treat. I still don't think we got enough, but make sure you stick around for the evening forecast from 48 First Alert meteorologist Brad Travis to see if we might get a little bit more rain. But I think it is time we jump into some of today's top stories. And of course, starting things off, both a North Cortland police officer and a Boaz police officer were recently arrested on domestic violence charges. Now, this is the officer who you see on screen right here. This was the North Cortland officer who was identified by the Franklin County Sheriff's Office as 37-year-old Mark Whalen. Whalen was charged with domestic violence in the 3rd degree and is held on a $1,000 bond. And in Boaz, the officer you see on screen right here, he was arrested and identified as Carson Bradley Hicks. Yesterday, officials at the Marshall County Sheriff's Office notified Boaz police that a domestic violence warrant had been issued for Hicks. He was arrested and taken to the Marshall County Jail. He was released on a $4,000 bond. Now, 48's Matthew King, he has been looking into these 2 domestic violence situations, and he will have more for you all coming up in our evening newscast. So make sure you all stick around. Now, a story that broke on our website in DeKalb County earlier today, a Valley Head man was arrested and charged with murder. Now, sheriffs say the murder happened in Collinsville on County Road 221. When officials arrived on scene, they say they found a woman dead from a gunshot wound. A man was later identified as James Howard Jr., that is who you see on screen right there, and he was found nearby by neighbors. Howard was arrested and charged with murder and public intoxication. He was booked into the DeKalb County Detention Center without bond. And now in the Shoals. Officials at West Lauderdale Water are urging customers to conserve their water. Now, of course, this comes as I previously mentioned, we've recently experienced an abnormally dry weather here in the Tennessee Valley. The water company says increased water usage has caused tank levels to be very low. They're asking customers to not use water in any unnecessary way, which includes sprinkler systems, filling pools, or any kind of outdoor slip and slides, and blow-ups. 48's Aria Pons is on this story, and we will have updates for you all. Now, I think it is time for Crime Stoppers. A lot of thefts going on recently, so let's take a look at who 48's Gina Benitez and Huntsville Police need your help stopping this week.
Local hardware stores seem to be hit constantly, and this week we're talking about yet another Home Depot heist. If you know who this latest accused crook is, call Huntsville Police.
Police say late last month, this guy walked into the Home Depot on the Parkway with what appeared to be an empty backpack. Investigators say he walked around the store and started filling it with merchandise, then took off on a bike. If you know who he is, where he is, or where any others we're about to show you are, call HPD. Robert Sandifer is wanted for failing to register as a sex offender with local law enforcement. Police say Elizabeth Callahan is charged with theft by deception. Investigators believe she allowed someone to deposit counterfeit checks into her account and for cash to be withdrawn from it. Joanna Johnson Brooks is accused of having fentanyl in her possession. Police say Chloe Loans stole more than $800 from Dollar General while she was a cashier there. And Corey Woods is charged with domestic violence. He's accused of choking and hitting a former girlfriend. It's easy to earn up to $1,000. If you recognize any of these people, just call 256-53-CRIME. You can also text or email your tips. For more information, visit the Crime Stoppers link on our website, WAFF.com.
Thank you, Gina. Now let's talk about national politics for a second, as there is a presidential debate going on tonight between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. Yesterday, I had the absolute pleasure of bringing in Dr. Wayman Burke. He's a former poli-sci and history professor at schools like Calhoun Community College, Alabama A&M, UAH, and Athens State University. Needless to say, he knows quite a bit about politics. Let's take a listen to what he says will be some key topics that will get brought up in tonight's debate. Let's listen.
We've gone over some of the ones that are obvious, you know, inflation. The border will be a big thing. Trump really wants to push that. And of course, inflation, as we've said. And I think, you know, his conviction in New York State, I'm sure that will come up, and I'm sure that Trump will want to make what some people in the Republicans call him the Republican head of the Biden is the head of a criminal crime family, and this other times they say he's a doting old fool, and so I think they're going to make up their mind one way or the other. But that type of thing goes in politics. There's always a lot of cheap shots and so forth. President Reagan, back in 1984, debating against Walter Mondale, former Vice President Walter Mondale, said he would not make an issue of his opponent's youth and inexperience. So, of course, Reagan could deliver those lines, and Reagan and Obama and JFK and so forth, they were all just almost poetic in their delivery.
Right. A very insightful political discussion there with Dr. Burke. And you can watch that full 48 Now interview, as well as more information about the debate tonight on our website, WAFF.com. Now, in case you missed it, yesterday, somebody's pet in Grant was attacked by a pack of wolf dogs. Yesterday, 48's Daquan Lee covered this story. He spoke with neighbors of the pet owner, and let's take a listen to what they had to say.
It leaves people uncomfortable, you know, and it's senseless. There's no reason for it to be here to start with.
Imagine waking up to a call in the early morning about a neighbor's pet being attacked by a pack of wolf dogs. That was the reality for Philip Morrison, who owns a farm nearby. He says this morning he rushed out of the door to make sure his own animals were okay following that call.
And sure enough, some of them come around the curve as I was coming out the door, and which I didn't shoot none of them. I just fired a shot to run them down in the woods, and then I went to figure out where my horses was at, because you know, a pack of wolves attacking animals.
Thankfully, the dog that was attacked survived. But both Philip and the Marshall County Sheriff's Office tell us this isn't the first time these wolf dogs have attacked. Assistant Chief Deputy John Young says the owner won't be facing charges from the attack, but he will be cooperating to help animal control catch them.
The owner's promised if they come in, he's going to try to lure them in tonight for feed. If they come in, he'll call. We'll come back out and get them. The neighbors have been alerted to ask them if they spot the dogs, let the owner know, and let them try to capture them.
Thank you, Daquan. And officials say they are still searching for one more lone wolf. Now let's talk about some recent fake prescription arrests in Morgan County. 48's Nick Ballinger has this story.
There's typically always something wrong with them.
Decatur pharmacists tell me sometimes it's easy to spot a fake prescription. That's what happened when Grace Witten and Robert Brown were arrested and now face multiple charges connecting to passing forged prescriptions around area pharmacies. Police say they were after opioid pills.
If someone's odd, it kind of throws a red flag up. You know, they'll put an antibiotic with it, with a controlled substance to try to make them go together.
Dr. Edward Geist, the owner of Geist Pharmacy, has even picked up some real tricks over the years, knowing how real doctors write their prescriptions.
Plus, you know their writing habits. So if someone normally writes for 56 tablets and all of a sudden they write for 180, you've never seen a prescription for 180, it's like, oh, wait, this doctor never writes for that much.
He's even got it down to a science of recognizing handwriting.
Then if they write a prescription, it's not in the normal doctor's handwriting, it's not a normal doctor from around here.
Pharmacist Tim Douthit at Bendel's sees fake prescriptions walk through his door almost once a month, so he changed his approach.
And didn't recognize her. I knew the name, but then I always look and see what they're driving. I just got tired of dealing with forgeries, and so I would walk out front and take a picture of them with my camera, and they'd just take off running most of the time.
Both take what they do seriously.
Writing for controlled substances, and those controlled substances are getting on the street, then you don't know who's going to be affected. If they found out that it came from here, then it would bother me severely.
Now in state news, the new Retail Crime Prevention Act was recently passed not even a year ago. But officials are already saying the new law is making a dramatic impact. WBRC in Birmingham reporter Brady Talbert spoke with officials about it, and let's take a listen.
Headline after headline.
So we've had arrests in Coleman and in Mobile and in Hoover.
Nancy Dennis with the Alabama Retail Association says it's clear the Retail Theft Crime Prevention Act is already stopping shoplifters. It creates harsher penalties for thieves and crime ring organizers. She says organized crime is an industry in itself.
There are people who will steal from retailers in like I said, various ways that they'll do it. And then they will sell it online at a lesser price.
And she says these criminals weren't being prosecuted, stealing just under the threshold for charges. Now, prosecutors can group multiple thefts together. Stealing over $2,500 of products is now a Class B felony. And if you're caught 4 or more times for any amount, it's a Class C felony. Alabama businesses are relieved.
I think it's good because I think people have to be held accountable for the things that they do. And, you know, it might make them think twice again before they do something like that.
And Dennis agrees.
The goal is to hopefully that these kinds of incidents will be less and less.
Thank you, Brady. Now, if you're looking for something to do this fine Thursday night, you can always head on out to Guntersville City Harbor, where they are hosting a street party tonight from 6 to 9 p.m., ahead of the annual Hydra Fest going on this weekend. Yesterday, I spoke with City Harbor owner Patrick Lawler, and here's a little of what he had to say about tonight's street party.
We're having a street party tomorrow night, Thursday night, and starts. I believe it starts at 5, if I'm not mistaken. It may be 6, but it'll have all the boats on displays and drivers, and we'll have some tents set up, and it'll be a nice event. I think this is the second year we've done this here, and a lot of people, and it brings a lot of excitement.
Very cool. And you said there'll be some tents set up. They'll have the boats on display. What are some other things attendees can expect to see?
Well, we'll of course, we'll have live music here. We'll have live music at Nash's, Levi's on the Lake, the bar at the end of the dock. We'll have live music all weekend. So we expect a big crowd, and we think it's going to be very good and very positive for the city.
Certainly sounds like a fun time as those fast boats prepare to take on Lake Guntersville this weekend. 48's Cam Durr, as well as 48's Savannah Sapp, will also be bringing you the latest tonight from Guntersville. Now something going on tomorrow, especially if you're a fan of Southern rock music. Rock band Atlanta Rhythm Section is coming to the VBC's Mars Music Hall tomorrow night in Huntsville. Today, I got to speak with lead guitarist for ARS and Huntsville native. His name was Dave Anderson. And let's also take a listen to what he had to say. Of course, from Huntsville originally, you attended Grissom High School. First, what's going through your mind leading up to playing your hometown?
It's a little strange because we play all over the country, and it's different having a lot of friends in the audience, and I'm actually singing this show because our singer is in the hospital right now, and it's nothing too serious, but we're hoping he's okay. So it's going to be a little strange, but we're still going to have fun, and see a lot of friendly faces.
Very cool. And I take it you enjoy singing as well?
I do. I prefer being off to the side playing guitar, but I sing also, so I won't be too out of my comfort zone.
That's right. Well, super cool. And Dave, I read somewhere you actually saw Atlanta Rhythm Section in concert back when you were in middle school. And now, of course, you are a member of the band. How surreal is that moment, like looking back at it?
It was really surreal when I first joined. It still is, because a good friend of mine, Jim Keeling, and we met for the first time to jam together. He was playing drums, I was playing guitar, and after we were done jamming, he said, "Are you going to go see ARS?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Let's meet up at the soundboard." And he ended up being the drummer for ARS, and that's how I got into the band. He has since retired from touring. But so when we were actually together for the first time in the band, we were shaking our heads thinking, who would have thought?
Very, very cool. Did you have like a favorite ARS song growing up? Whether it was the chords to play, whether it was the melody, the lyrics?
I liked them all. I loved Champagne Jam. I loved So Into You, which was the biggest of their hits, I think. Not Gonna Let It Bother Me Tonight might be my favorite. But the chords, some of their stuff, and I thought I was the only one that said this, but a lot of people call ARS the Steely Dan of the South, because they're put in the Southern rock genre, but they're really a little more. The writing has been more sophisticated. There's when you mention chords, there's smarter chords, and smarter lyrics. Buddy Bowie, the manager, co-wrote songs with J.R. Cobb and Dean Daughtry, and with his great lyrics and their chords, they made magic.
Right. And describe smarter chords. Like for me, like G is a pretty smart chord, just the basic G.
Their song Georgia Rhythm is just basically G and two other chords and the truth. But they seventh chords, minor seventh chords, and chord changes that they still sound very accessible and very commercial. But when you break it down, there's a lot more thought going on to the writing. And I dabbled in jazz as a kid and a young adult, and that always kind of appealed to me. But it's still very accessible because their biggest pop hits had those chords all throughout them.
Very awesome stuff right there. And I think it's pretty telling to say he's a much better guitarist than I am, which, I mean, no one's shocked by that. He's only been called the greatest rock star in Huntsville. So definitely an awesome interview there. And you can watch that full 48 Now interview with Dave Anderson on our website, WAFF.com. Now let's head into the stories you're just not going to want to miss. A new Parks and Rec survey going on in Florence, a judge ruling in favor of a principal in Colbert County, Walgreens Pharmacy could be closing hundreds of stores, and the Supreme Court now allowing emergency abortions in one U.S. state. Make sure you all stick around for these stories you're just not going to want to miss. And as I said earlier, you're not going to want to miss the first alert forecast in tonight's newscast. Brad Travis will have the latest for you there. Now it is time for Facebook Fun. And if you don't know what Facebook Fun is, you are in for a real treat. Throughout our day, usually it's around noon, we will post a question on the 48 Facebook page. We try to do this every single day, and you all respond accordingly. You all had a lot of responses to today's question. There were, how many? When I took this screenshot here, there were 781 responses. And there were, it ranged, it was everything from what I saw to 25 cents to, I think I saw an $11 one, which that is definitely a lot more than I got paid at my first job. I got paid, I believe it was $8 an hour. But let's see what you all got paid. Hold up. There we go. Dan Popke, he said 85 cents an hour. He was a vegetable farmer back in 1974. 85 cents an hour is not very much. I'm sure it was a lot more back in 1974, but I don't know if you can purchase anything today for 85 cents an hour. Wow, Dan, that is incredible. Thank you so much for commenting. Larry Pierce, he said $3.25 straight out of high school. Definitely a lot less than my first job. And Johnny Burdett, he kept it simple. And this is probably all of your comments in a nutshell. He said not enough. And ain't that the truth? But that is all the time I have in today's Before the Four. I want to thank you all for sticking around and spending a little bit of your Thursday afternoon with me. If you haven't done so already, make sure you download the 48 Digital app, and the same goes for the 48 First Alert Weather app, and get the breaking news delivered directly to you. And with that said, I want to thank you for watching. You all have a great night.